Good evening, Danvers. Welcome to the April 29th, 2021 meeting of the Danvers Water Commissioners. My apologies for the delay. We had a little bit of a technical snafu that we've since sorted out. So my assumption is that everything is operating as planned right now. So we'll move forward with the meeting. As a preliminary matter, my name is Coley Rybicki and I'm the Water and Sewer Commissioner Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members are present and anticipated on the agenda and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Justin Terriall?
Here.
Michael O'Keefe?
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. David Lane?
Here.
Peter Korpusik?
Here.
Peter, I have a question for you. Is this your last meeting or second to last meeting?
Next to last, depending upon if we schedule one for May.
Okay. I'm cognizant of that, so I'll make some remarks when we know it's the last one. Angelica Medina?
Here.
Stephen King?
Here.
Aaron Salufo?
Here.
Richard Souza?
Here.
Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. David Lane?
Here.
Peter Korpusik?
Here.
David Lane and Stephen King?
Steve King is here.
This open meeting of the Water and Sewer Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Furthermore, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Water and Sewer Commission is convening remotely via the WebEx application, well, I guess it's Microsoft Teams, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and hear you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting materials. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I, Coley Rybicki, note otherwise. Meeting business ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before doing so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of the business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. We will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude the remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to properly and provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking, and please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment, we've established an email address for public comment. Public comments at danversma.gov. And I'll repeat that as I usually do to make sure people capture it. Public comments at danversma.gov. This email address is also posted with the agenda and shown online with the streaming of this meeting. Residents with email comments will be read out loud after the staff has confirmed their name and address. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. We will now turn to the first item on the agenda, which was the executive order that I just read. So we'll go on to number 2. We need to approve the minutes from the previous meeting held on March 25th, 2021. And I believe the board members received a copy of those minutes electronically. So at this point, I'll entertain if there are any questions about those minutes. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes of our last meeting.
Motion to approve. This is Justin Terrio.
Thank you, Justin. Do I have a second?
Michael Keefe, I second.
Thank you, Michael. I have to do a voice vote on this, so Michael Keefe,
Yes.
Justin Terrio,
Yay.
and Coley Rybicki approve the minutes from the last meeting. We'll now turn to item 3 on the agenda, which is our financial update. Over to you, Peter and David.
Mr. Chairman, today we're looking at the March 31st through March 31st financials for the Water and Sewer Division. If you look at the middle of the page on the left, we'll start with the water as we normally do. We can see that we're approximately 80% towards our goal of selling the amount of water that we budgeted for. We're 7.2% closer to our goal through the end of March than we were last year at this same time period. The next thing that's most important is how close are we to collecting the cash to fund the operations that were approved at town meeting. And we can see that we're almost 88.5% towards that goal for the water, which again is 6.5% closer to the goal than it was last year at this same time. For the sewer, if we go to the right of the page, same thing with the sewer. We're approximately 74% towards the goal of the amount of sewage we were going to charge for, which is, again, 3.1% closer to our goal than we were at the same time last time. Cash collections for sewer were approximately 86%, which is 6% closer to our goal than we were last year. Based on what we're seeing for the numbers, we fully expect that we will we'll have enough money, we will have enough money to cover our operations, and we fully anticipate selling as much water as we planned. Now, if we recall last year when we set the budget, due to our declining sales last year, we used the prior year's number, which was a little bit different than our normal 3-year average. And so we used a lower number. Now, at the beginning of this year, if people may recall, July, August, and September, we sold a lot more water, even though we had COVID. And we believe that was because it was warmer, people were home, people were using a lot more water outside. As the year has gone along, we're getting ever closer. The first 3 months were banner months for selling water. Every month since then, the volume of water has gone down and down. And at this point in time, we're 3.27% above where we were last year. So if we go in the same pattern, we're expecting to only sell slightly over 2% more water than we budgeted for. So even though we're good this year, as the year went on, we regressed back to the smaller number that we budgeted for. And I think it's important to note that we started out good. We're going to make the numbers, but people did start conserving once the year went on. As I mentioned in the last couple of months, the residential use is up year to date 13.5%, and the commercial through March is down almost 15%. So again, the residential customers being home, being warmer, being drier last year during the summer, all those things contributed to a lot more sales during those first 3 or 4 months of the year, and that's what's going to bring us cumulatively to a successful year. And I think that about sums it up, Mr. Chairman. We're going to make it, but again, it's still kind of tricky with the water sales because people are conserving and we do have a conservation effort. So on one hand, we need to sell a certain amount, but the conservation effort it is working also.
Before I ask the board if they have any questions on the financials, the chair has one question. And can you refresh my memory? I think we had a projected retained earnings number. And are we going to make that number or fall short of that number? Or where do we sit with respect to that?
At the present time, it appears that we will have enough cash that will bump up our retained earnings number. And as you recall, I think you're alluding to that when we upped the flat rate, and 2 years ago we had a bigger increase to build up the retained earnings. Yes, it does appear that we will not just meet what we're expecting, but we will also meet our goal to bump the retained earnings up for future capital projects and operations.
No, thank you for that. I think that's great news for us. The reason I ask at this time of year is it doesn't make sense to ask about what the retained earnings is doing in the first month of the year. So now that we're approaching the end of the year, I was kind of curious as to whether we were making that number or not. So thanks for that information. I'll now turn it over to the board to see if they have any questions on the financials. Mike O'Keefe?
No questions at this time, Cooley.
Okay. Justin Terrio?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the financials as presented. Voice vote, please. Mike O'Keefe?
Accept.
Justin Terrio?
Accept.
And the chair, Coley Rybicki, accepts. We have a unanimous vote on the financials. We'll now move to item 4 on the agenda, deferrals. Over to you, David.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 5 requests for deferrals. These are special deferrals that are allowed by the general laws of Massachusetts for seniors over the age of 65 who are in a certain tax and income classification. They have to fill certain obligations, and in that case, we allow them to defer their payments. It's similar to a lien. We still get the money at some point, but they're able to defer it. We have 5, in which I'll read off the names for you, that we would just like a quick vote tonight to approve the 5, and then we need the board to come in and sign them, which we'll do down at the engineering office, like we've done other things in the past. Staff has been through all these. They all qualify. The clerk's office has helped us. We have Rita Swindell at 18 Beaver Park Road, Mason Britta at 37.5 Pickering Street. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Britta Mason. And then we have Carol Lindsay, who's at 41 Poplar Street. Nancy Hall at 53 Poplar Street. And Brenda Tuttle at 225 Yankee Division Highway. Like I said, we worked with the clerk. They all fall into the qualifications. We think it's a good program, and we would appreciate the board's vote to approve these tonight and coming in to sign these.
Before the vote, I'll ask the board members if there's any question on those deferrals. Mike O'Keefe?
No questions, Cooley.
Justin Terrio?
No questions at this time, thank you.
And the chair has no questions either. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept the deferrals as presented by David Lane. Again, we need a voice vote on that. Mike O'Keefe?
Accept.
Justin Terrio?
Motion to approve.
Okay. And Coley Rybicki approves, so that's a unanimous vote of the board to accept those deferrals. Okay. On to item number 5. Any open other business that needs to come before the board this evening?
Sure. We have a couple things, Mr. Chairman. We did our warrant article and budget review with the Finance Committee. It went very well. It was received. Obviously, the board knows that it's a very level-funded budget this year. On the warrant articles, a couple things I wanted to mention. We did finalize the costs of the collapsed sewer drainage line that had to be repaired off of Holton Street on the rail trail. The sewer cost of that project is $130,000. And what we have done is asked town meeting to transfer $130,000 from sewer retained earnings into the operating budget in order to cover that cost. We believe we'll have some surplus in the budget that could cover part of that, but we just felt it was cutting it too close if we didn't move some money over into the operating budget from retained earnings to make sure we could fund that purchase and still carry the budget out to the end of the year. As the board knows, any amount of the 130 that we don't need to use in the budget, it'll go right back into retained earnings at the end of the year. So it's kind of like a safety net just to make sure that we don't go in the negative at the end of the year.
Right.
Any questions on that?
None from the chair. Commission
No
members?
questions.
No questions? Justin?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
The other capital projects, which the board's aware of, were all well received. I'll just go through quickly. That's the study of the Lakeview Booster Station, so studying what we're going to do about rehabilitating that. The study and rehab of those two interconnections, the one with Beverly on Conant Street, the one with Peabody down on Water Street. The valve and vault upgrades at the state hospital tank that we're going to do. The sewer TV and inspection program. And last but not least, the Frostfish book, the next phase of that, which will be up past the high school soccer fields that we talked about. So all those capital projects were well received. Did want to give the board an update with not that information on the Water Management Act, on the permit. The order to complete has been submitted. Kudos go out to our town engineer, Stephen King, who really, he led the team on that, on putting that submittal together, did a great job chasing everybody around. So that's in. We're waiting for DEP. We've had numerous deadlines when they've told us they're going to get us a permit. We don't know when it's coming. We think it's coming shortly. Unfortunately, we have not heard back from Middleton on the intermunicipal agreement or where they are. That's going to become an issue like we've talked about in the past. They're silent so far on it. So we're in a holding pattern on that. The other thing that we mentioned briefly last month was that the registrations, that's for our base amount of water, different than the permit, which is that piece on the top. The registrations, the renewals are coming up in January. The DEP has talked about a lot of new regulations and requirements that they want to put onto the registration. The Massachusetts legislation is already battling that out and debating it. There's obviously some pushback on what the DEP wanted to do. We're monitoring that. Really, we don't have too much of a role in what's going on. We're just going to monitor it, and we'll participate in the legislature when needed, when it's appropriate for us to testify or do something. And once again, the things they want to put on the registrations, many of those items Danvers already has because we had to take them into our permit. It's mostly for the towns that were able to bypass all the conservation things that we had last time, because the towns can just use registrations and they don't need that permit. I would say that you may have seen there's been some articles and national news actually on the Ipswich River. You know, they've got it on the endangered rivers list, on the national list again. So Ipswich River has really started their campaign about protecting the river and things that have to be done. Our role in that is to continue to report that we want to be stewards of the environment. We want to do our share. However, we are a very small part of the water in the Ipswich River watershed. And even if they stopped all the municipal withdrawals, the Ipswich River would still have issues as far as going dry and issues with drought. So we want to do our part, but we don't want everything put onto our shoulders. So that's what we'll continue to go on. That's Water Management Act. The biggest news on our current capital programs is that the chlorine booster station that Stephen King and staff have been working on up at the Foley Hill tank is finally near conclusion. Stephen's getting ready to do the startup tests in the next couple weeks. We will notice increased chlorine in the east side of town. So those people are used to not smelling or even tasting chlorine down there, which we've noticed well because we always fight to get enough chlorine down there. So we've talked about doing some press release information on that to get the word out. People are going to be experience a little bit of taste and odor with the chlorine. However, it's a good thing. It's to make sure your water is as safe as it can be. Other than that, we had a lot of work on the grant for the PFAS. Stephen King is heading that up as far as how we're going to do with well 1, how can we treat for PFAS up there, what are our options. We're starting to get information back on that. Stephen will be able to give a report probably at either the next meeting or the one after that on where we are with that. And the crew did a great job. Stephen King, Jason, Aaron, everybody on the rehabilitation of the carbon filter up at the water treatment plant. Really did it. It's a tricky job to take the filters offline, get them repaired. It's not no more repairs, but real kudos to all those guys that brought those jobs in, right on budget, and they brought them in on time. So glad to see that. And we all know we need those carbon filters. It's absolutely critical to our water quality. And that's what we had. Peter, Richard, Aaron, do you guys have anything else that we needed to bring up for items?
Steve, do you want to mention Route 114? Just where we are with that?
Yeah, I'll let Stephen, do you want to do that one? The 114 project?
Yeah, sure. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. My feed was kind of cutting out. If you guys can hear me, that's Mr. Chair. So we had both the water and the sewer projects that were out to bid. The water main replacement on Route 114 on Andover Street, that's basically from Route 95 heading east towards the PBD line. We were still waiting our Mass DOT permit. We were supposed to open bids today, but did not receive that permit in time, so we sent out an addenda to push the bid opening date to May 13th. So we should be getting that permit next week. We want to make sure that anything that they have written in the permit, the contractors are aware of, so there's not a major change in the plans and scope of work based on their bid. So we just want to, make sure we play it safe and we're able to account for everything that they may have to do on 114. All that work is proposed to be at night, as recommended by DOT. So the contractor, whoever the lowest bidder is, will be working probably starting the midsummer, nighttime from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. On Route 114. So that's we'll await the bid opening on May 13th, and I'll be able to update you at the next water and sewer meeting. We also just had 2 recent openings on the sewer side. We had a CCTV contract. I briefly mentioned before. Truax was a low bidder. We just executed their contract. We have a pre-con with them starting next week, and we hope to have them getting on the streets right after that to start doing the CCTV work and camera and inspections of our sewer mains along Pine Street, Hobart Street area. We also just opened bids today for CIPP lining, our comprehensive sewer rehab project. We got excellent numbers from the bidders, well under our engineer's estimate. So we're seeing great numbers still, seeing a huge savings for the town and being able to get a little bit more work done. So we're going to review the qualifications of the bidder, check their references. We have used them before. It's National Water Main, so I don't see any big hiccups with awarding the contract to them in the future. And we hope to get that project started in the next few months. So that's the update on the current bids we have going.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Chair just has a couple of questions on things that I just heard. So first of all, thanks to everybody on that carbon filter thing. I know we've talked about that in the past, and it's good to get the critical things done that keep the water quality where it's at. So as David said, thank you to everybody for that. 2 questions on what I just heard. Did the lining for the bids for the lining and the camera work, did that come in at expected bid or under bid, or was it over? What was the financial performance on that?
Both bids for both the CCTV work and the line work came under the engineer's estimate, so well under what we appropriated for money.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Dave, you mentioned the PFAS issue. Are we seeing levels staying steady, or are they going up, or are they going down, or, that's an issue I've seen in the media a lot lately, so I was just curious about that.
So we haven't done another round of sampling yet. We've tested it thoroughly, and the numbers at well 2, which we're using right now, the numbers out of the well are well below the regulatory standards still. And on top of that, we're blending water. We're not running well 2 all by itself, so it's always blended with the treatment plant water. So we're at minuscule amounts, almost non-detectable amounts.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right, at this point in time, the chair will ask the commission members if they've had any comment or question about what was just presented. So, Justin Terriot, any questions?
No, Coley, thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Mike O'Keefe?
No questions, Coley, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. All right, it's that time of the program where we'll pick our next meeting date. So, any proposals, Dave, in terms of when you would like to have that?
Well, it would be Peter's last meeting. I would like to have it accelerate the rate discussion and at least have a preliminary rate discussion, perhaps, meeting. Peter, if we push that off to like the 27th instead of 20th, will that help us if we did a preliminary rate discussion?
Yeah, we can do that, Dave, and that'll probably give us, hopefully through May's numbers at that point in time.
Wait a second. Wait, I might have an issue. Hold on.
Okay.
I should have checked let me check one thing here first.
Yeah, I think I have an issue with that day, Dave.
All right, I guess maybe we better ratchet it back to the 20th.
Okay.
Does 20th work better, Coley?
No, the 20th and the 27th are problematic for me. And there are things I can't move, so.
How about the 25th?
That sounds good for me. Justin Terriot and Mike O'Keefe, do you guys have any issues with May 25th as a date?
25th will work for me. The other, yeah, because the 20th or 27th do not work, but the 25th will work.
Okay.
25th sounds good.
All right, so why don't we book the 25th at 5:30?
Done.
Any chance of going in person?
I'm going to ask the town manager and we'll see. Right now, the only in-person meetings were done in the multi-purpose room at the middle school, and it involved a big setup, and it was quite an elaborate process. But I'll be in touch with the town manager and do anything we can to see if we can. There is a chance.
Okay.
The town manager and assistant town manager, they're reviewing an opening protocol right now, reviewing options. So we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to see what they come up with. But
Okay.
Good possibility.
Okay, yeah, the only reason I bring it up is I did do a cable commission meeting in person last night, so I just kind of curious whether the town was moving in that direction or what the protocols are. So, I'll defer to the wisdom of town hall in terms of what we do, but I just was curious when we might be able to do that.
Would it be safe if I represented that the commissioners would all like to do it in person if possible?
I think there's a special reason to do it in person for the next time around, because I'd like to thank Peter in person for his service to us. So I would like to do that. The chair would like to do that.
Okay. We'll see if we can make it happen.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions from anybody on the call, one last roundtable. Anybody have anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Michael,
Welcome to Jack. Oh, sorry.
A second, please.
Terrio, second.
Thank you so much. The chair now closes the meeting. Have a good night, Danvers, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coley. Great job.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, bye.